When Diana is mayor in Hypixel Skyblock, she hosts an event called the Mythological Ritual. This event is extremely lucrative, as you can get turtle shellmets, Daedalus sticks, Minos relics, and Chimera books from it. A while back, they rebalanced how lifesteal worked in Hypixel Skyblock, and in that, they also had to nerf the damage from Diana mobs. In doing this, they have made Diana entirely different, and I think that the meta is quite different from what it was before. All of that is why today, I'm going to be going over what, in my opinion, is the best setup for Diana, and I'm also going to be talking about all the gear that you could possibly need, along with some other early game strategies to make money off this event. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe and join my Discord server. I love making these types of videos for all of you, and subscribing really helps me out. Okay, so without much further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first thing we're going to go over is what the Diana event actually is. If you don't know, the Diana event is started by the mayor Diana and lasts for her entire mayorship. So from the time she is elected to the time she leaves, this is something that you can do. The way you start participating in this event is you talk to Diana and you buy an ancestral spade and a griffin pet. The griffin pet has, of course, many different rarities: common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. And in my opinion, the only one that's really good is the legendary griffin, but we'll also be talking about how you can use other rarities later on. Griffin pets are a little bit different than all other pets, as you can't upgrade them in cat, and the only rarity that you can buy is the common variety. The way that you upgrade their rarity is by combining them with upgrade stones, which are made out of the based stone. You can upgrade them all the way to legendary, and a level 100 legendary griffin actually can be quite expensive. The way you participate in the event is pretty simple. All you do is take your ancestral spade, right-click with it to use its ability, and that will direct you towards the nearest burrow. Burrows are in chains of 4s, and once you dig up the first one, it'll make an arrow pointing you towards the next one. From there, you can dig up burrows which either have mobs or treasures. When you dig up mob burrows, they'll have these crit particles above them, and most of the time, the mobs are actually pretty easy. Even with a legendary griffin, the mobs nowadays are pretty easy because of items like the Warden helmet, and just because of how much they've nerfed the damage. There are 6 different types of mobs you can dig up with the legendary griffin, which are Minos hunters, lynxes, constructs, minotaurs, Minos champions, and inquises. The hardest ones are definitely the inquises, the champions, and the Gaia constructs, and the rest are pretty easy. You can almost one-tap them, and even now, the rest of those 3 will be very, very easy. If I dig one up now, you can see it is a champion, and this is arguably the hardest or second hardest mob, but it really isn't that hard, especially because you can sort of just shred through them with the new axe. Once you kill the mob defending the burrow, you can dig it up again, and that will lead you to a new burrow. You'll see that if I use the ability, it will point me in the direction. However, there was also this one that was right here, and you can tell that this is not right because the blue particles above it means that it is the first in the chain, and that of course is wrong. If I go down here and I find this one, it will have lava particles above it, and that means that is a treasure, and that can either be a griffin feather, a coin drop, some other items, or just like anything. It's a lot of things in the treasure drops, and I kind of forget them all, but most of the time you'll get griffin feathers. Once you've completed a chain, you use the ability again, and you start a new chain. It's a pretty simple process that you sort of just repeat a bunch, and then over time you'll kill mobs and you'll dig up drops, and then over time you can make a lot of money off of the claws, the feathers, and of course the rare drops that you can pull up, which I talked about earlier. Now that we've looked at what the event actually is, we can go over the gear that you'll want to have for the event. Starting off with the weapon of choice, which is the Daedalus axe. There is an argument for the Sword of Revelations, which is that it deals a tiny bit more damage because it has more strength, but in my opinion, the Daedalus axe is just far, far better because of the increased stats you get from the pet, and the fact that you don't take damage from it, and the fact that it will just give you more drops because of the magic find. This is a really, really good weapon, and as you can see here, mine is pretty maxed out. There's nothing crazy on it like Sharp 7. In my opinion, it is better to have Triple Strike and Execute rather than First Strike and Prosecute, because although you would deal more damage with First Strike and Prosecute on your first hit, you actually are going to be dealing sustained damage to these mobs, so Triple Strike and Execute are normally a better fit. Also, there is an argument between Sharpness and Smite, and in my opinion, a Sharpness is probably more worth it, just because Gaias are one of the harder mobs, and of course, Smite doesn't work against Gaias. The next thing you're going to want to have is actually in your pets menu, and that is 2 different pet rules. The first one being, when you dig a burrow, you want to equip your griffin, and then when you cast a fishing hook, you should equip your sheep. And let me explain. In my opinion, because of the fact that the new mobs are pretty easy and you can sort of just do them without much effort, I have actually been using Storm Armor, which is reforged to Ancient with a Warden Helmet. In my opinion, this has been working really, really well, and it means that I have way more mana to move around the map with my AoTE. Also, if I have my Fishing Rod in my 8th slot, I can cast it to equip a sheep so I can go across the entire map super easily without worrying about running out of mana. Of course, if you are having a tougher time with the mobs, you can go with something that's a little bit tankier, like Necron, or what I'm using is 2/4 Necron and the Zombie Knight chestplate. This is a very good setup for Diana, and of course this has Legion 5, which is nice, but in my opinion, the Storm setup is actually really nice too. It has sort of just felt more convenient to be able to move around faster, and because the mobs are much less of a challenge now because of the Warden Heart, and the fact that there's just like, they don't deal as much damage, most of the issue and most of the time that you spend doing this will be moving between the locations. Of course, you could also do something like change out what armor you're wearing every single time you want to move between them. However, that will kind of slow you down in the long run, and in my opinion, it's more worth it to just use this setup right here. The other nice part about this that I entirely forgot to mention is that it means you can spam the Ancestral Spade way more, which is something that I do a ton because I forget where things are pointing like way too much, and I think that it's really nice to be able to have a ton of uses on it and to not have to worry about it shredding through your mana. The last part of this setup that is really nice to have, and I stress that it is extremely powerful, is something that is sort of locked behind a paywall. However, it is having the Epic Travel Scrolls. There are a number of Epic Travel Scrolls that lead to different places in the hub, being the Dark Auction, the one at the castle, and the one in the crypts. The crypts one isn't that useful, but I have all of these set to different things using SPE. If I want to go to the Dark Auction, I can do /DA. If I wanted to go to the castle, I can do /CA. If I want to go to the crypt, I can do /CR. All of these combine to make it just really nice to move around the map, and if you combine all of this mana with the different warps, you can basically get to anywhere on the map if you know where you need to go, just by warping there and then teleporting with AoTE. However, this does take some skill and some time to get used to, because if I use this, it's sort of hard to tell exactly where it's going all the time. If you know where different places in the map that it can spawn are, and you know how far away it is by telling which color the arrow is, then it's really nice to know, and you can basically just find things immediately. As you can see right here, the red is the furthest, yellow is the second furthest, and then orange is the closest. And I know that it's going across the map in this direction, so it's probably going to be somewhere in the plains by the DA. And if you see, I can use my ability there, and it will immediately tell me, I'm guessing it's right around here, and yeah, I was right. Of course, this does take a lot of time, and I've been doing the Diana event for many months now, and of course it's not going to be super easy the very first time you do it, but if you get the feeling of it down, it makes your efficiency way higher. To quickly go over some of the other quirks and side notes, the first thing is that you can also do this event with other rarities of Griffin. However, I would recommend that if you're not doing it with a legendary, you either just don't do it at all, or you do it with a common. If you're doing it with a common Griffin, most of your money will be from Griffin feathers, and then you don't really have to worry about mobs taking up your time. This is only something you should do if you're pretty early game, however, it can make some decent money for early game because Griffin feathers are not cheap. Quickly, I'm also going to go over sort of my stat spread and what you can look for if you want to get it yourself. As you can see, I do have quite a bit of intel and also decent other stats because it's reforged to Ancient. However, the most important stat there, in my opinion, is attack speed, and that is because attack speed is so unbelievably busted for this event that it's just so good to have it 100. Right now, my talismans aren't reforged perfectly, and that is because there is a slight bit of an issue with the accessory bag. However, even with my non-optimized talismans, I'm getting very good stats, and I can pretty much shred through any mob in the game like this. If you can't afford a Warden Helmet, then I would recommend going with something like 3/4 Necron and a Crown of Greed. I would not recommend going with 3/4 Storm and a Crown of Greed because you just will be so squishy and you will not deal enough damage to be able to sort of tank through it. In my opinion, this is the only setup that you should be running if you want to use the Storm setup. However, if you want, you can also try something like 3/4 Wise, but that would just be sort of weird and it wouldn't really make sense to me. In my opinion, Diana is one of the most fun and entertaining mayors, not only because she makes a lot of money, but also because hunting down burrows is quite a bit of fun. It sort of feels like a treasure hunt that you get to participate in the entire time she's here. I will be grinding out Diana a whole bunch throughout these 5 days, and I will be streaming a ton of it here on my channel on YouTube, and if you want to catch those, don't forget to subscribe and join my Discord server so then you don't miss any streams or uploads in the future. With that, I do wish you all the best of luck and the best of RNG in your Diana grind. I'll see you guys later, and adios.